On the menu today is some amazing healthy weight loss soup. My version of the cabbage soup diet without the cabbage. Stay tuned. Getting started with a bag of whole green beans frozen that I've let thaw out. To my spices, I have 2 bay leaves, a tablespoon of Jamaican allspice, a tablespoon of lemon pepper, a tablespoon of basil, a tablespoon of onion powder, a tablespoon of garlic powder, a teaspoon of nutmeg, thyme, and rosemary. Also, we're going to use a cup of crushed tomatoes, a can of Rotel tomatoes, beef stock, chicken stock, Himalayan salt, black pepper, onion soup seasoning, Tabasco sauce, and also Louisiana sauce. About a cup and a half of chopped celery, 1 red bell pepper, 6 scallions chopped, 1 yellow bell pepper, and a cup and a half of carrots chopped. I like to chop my carrots on the bias here, but you don't have to do that. Cut them however you like. So here I have preheated my cast iron skillet with about 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil. I'm adding my carrots to the skillet. Now the goal here is just to soften the carrots. Here I'm adding some of my spices. This is some of the allspice and some of the nutmeg, a little bit of the onion powder, and some salt. And I'm just going to mix that through. Now, what I want to do is I want to keep some crunch in the carrots, but I'm really trying to sweat them out a little bit and soften them up just a tad bit. Here, I'm adding a half a teaspoon of minced ginger, and that's really going to give these carrots some great flavor. And I'm just showing you what they look like. They've pretty much softened up, and I sauteed them for about 5 minutes. Here I have my Dutch oven with about 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil, and I'm adding in my celery. Now, every time I add a vegetable into the pot, I am going to also add some spices here. So I added some more allspice, and I also added some garlic powder here to the celery, and a little bit of lemon pepper. And I'm wanting the celery just to soften up a bit. My celery has softened up quite a bit. It started sweating out. And now what I'm going to do is add the green beans to the mixture. And the reason why I'm adding these green beans is because I want the green beans and the celery to meld together as far as the flavors. And I want those green beans to steam some so that they can soften up. But I still want to maintain a little bit of crunch in all of my vegetables. The more you heat this soup up, the more your vegetables are going to soften. And this is a soup that you will probably eat for a whole week. So you don't want to overcook your vegetables in the beginning. So here I've added some basil, I've added some lemon pepper, a little more allspice, the rest of the nutmeg, some onion powder, and some garlic powder. My green beans have been melding along with the celery for about 5 minutes. And now I'm adding in the packet of onion soup mix, and I'm going to mix this really well. My heat is on medium high, and I want the onion powder to get fully incorporated in the pot with the celery and the green beans. And I even want it to brown a little bit. So that's what I'm doing here. And I'm probably mixing this in for about 2 to 3 minutes. Now we're adding in our bell pepper, starting first with the red pepper, and then we're going to add in the yellow bell pepper. And we're just going to mix that around as well. We're not going to mix it too much, or we're not going to let it cook too much. We're just going to soften it up a bit. Now, as I stated before, every time I add in another vegetable, I layer it with more seasoning. So here I'm adding in my bay leaves, and I'm also going to put in more of the basil, the onion powder, and the garlic powder, and more of the allspice seasoning. And as you can see here, I have not used all of the seasoning that I measured out. I may or may not use it all, but it's better to have it on hand just in case you need it. So now I'm just mixing it through. Next, we're going to add our cup of crushed tomatoes, and these crushed tomatoes are going to act as a deglazer as well. So we had the bits and pieces from the onion powder, and it coated the bottom of the pan, which is exactly what we want. And now by adding those tomatoes, it deglazes the pan. If you are a vegetarian and you don't want to add stock, you can stop here. This is a great dish full of flavor. But now I'm going to add in my carrots, and those carrots with that ginger, that nutmeg, and that allspice brings it to another level of flavor. I taste it a little bit after I add in the stock, and I'm telling you, it tastes amazing. It tastes like a Caribbean dish. So here I just added a half a can of the chicken and a half a can of the beef stock to the mixture. And I'm just letting that hang out for a while. Tasting for flavor to adjust the seasonings. It tastes great. Now we're going to add in our Rotel tomatoes. And for my preference, I don't like a lot of tomatoes in my soup. So here I'm just draining the juice from the can of the Rotel tomatoes. And then I'm going to add in about 2 to 3 heaping teaspoons of the tomatoes. Actually, it was about 2.5. And that does it for me. But you add according to your preference. Now we are going to add in our scallions. Look at all those amazing bright colors that we've added to the soup. Now we're finishing off with the rest of our herbs and seasonings. We're adding in the thyme and the rosemary. We're also adding in more basil and a little bit more of the onion and garlic and the rest of the broths. Okay. Now, this soup is pretty much complete. We're going to cook the soup on medium for about 20 minutes. Now, this is the base soup. At the end, I'm going to show you some different variations, and it's going to affect the flavor as well. Here, I'm just adding a few dashes of Tabasco and Louisiana hot sauce, and that's completely up to you. It's completely optional, but I'm just adding another layer of flavor, a little bit of heat. Now this is our finished soup after it has been cooking for about 20 minutes. Now here what I've done is I've taken a chicken breast from a rotisserie chicken. I've also taken a chicken andouille non-GMO link, and also the other was some carne asada taco seasoned meat. Here I'm adding this to one bowl of soup. Now, the protein that you add into the bowls of soup is going to change the flavor. It's going to take on whatever the flavor of the meat or the protein is in the soup. And that's a good thing because you're eating this soup once or twice a day, every day. So if you add a little bit of protein to it, it's going to give it a much different flavor, and you won't get bored eating this soup to lose weight. And here you have it, our finished product. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this soup, whether it's a base or adding the protein in it. I guarantee you that if you eat it once a day for about 7 days, you'll lose between 3 to 7 pounds. I've done it. It works for me, and it has great flavor. Until next time, peace and blessings.